Briefly, it was this. We would paddle a canoe up the Minnesota River from Minneapolis, our home, to Big Stone Lake on the South Dakota line, into the Red River of the North, down that river into Canada and Lake Winnipeg, up the east shore of the lake to Norway House, and at that point attempt a hazardous wilderness jump of 500 miles to the bay. It would be the first time an all-water trip had ever been made from Minnesota to the North Atlantic Ocean. Marvelous! It sounded so simple then. But the problems in the way were many, and the first was finances. "I've an answer to that," I announced, after a few moments' heavy thought. "Why not get one of the newspapers in town to finance us? We could write weekly stories for them about our progress." I was editor of the school paper and considered myself a second Robert Louis Stevenson. "Bud," Walt said with admiration, "for once in your spotted career, you have an idea. Do you think we can put it over?" One newspaper did turn us down. Impossible, they told us, for two high school kids, one 19, Walt, and the other 17, me, to make a trip like that. Grown men would fail at it. Besides, our stories probably would not be any good anyway. But Mr. W.C. Robertson, managing editor of the Minneapolis Star, thought differently, or at least he did after we had harried him for a week. One day, he called us down to his office. "All right, boys, we'll ride with you," he announced briefly. Stopping only long enough to thank him with a gasp, we tore out of the newspaper building for the nearest camping goods store to begin selecting our outfit. Never had we been so excited. People stopped to stare at the two of us, one long and lean, the other short and stocky, galloping through the streets, talking as fast as we could with both our mouths and all our hands. Considering our inexperience, we finally selected a fairly compact and durable outfit. Our canoe was 18 feet long, an American-made cruiser model with a wide beam and a small keel. Some canoeists argued against the use of a keel, but later on we were thankful we had one. The Sans Souci, we christened her. That was Walt's idea. It means without care. We painted on her Minneapolis to Hudson Bay. In order to beat other buyers for the canoe, which was second-hand and on which the middle thwart was missing, we had to skip some of our final examinations. One necessary item we deliberately neglected to secure until we were assured of the Star's backing was the consent of our folks, who were caused more worry the ensuing summer than the hides of Walt and me were worth. But when they saw we had everything figured out almost to the last detail, they said yes like good sports. Both our dads wished they could go too. It really was a wonder they let us go. Some of our teachers at school called them and insisted that we would surely get lost in the wilderness, that we would drown, or that we would be wrecked in the rapids. A college professor who was planning to go up in the North Country on a scientific expedition the next spring offered to take us along if we would give up this trip, and said that we never could hear the waterfalls until it was too late. And the football coach, who wanted us to save money so we could go to college the next fall, argued with us for several hours. But our minds were made up. I suppose people try to discourage everyone who starts a trip like ours. You just have to make up your minds you can do it and then go ahead. The principal of the school thought it was great. He announced it at a student council meeting and said it was the nearest thing to the Lewis and Clark expedition he'd ever heard of. Commencement night finally rolled around. Here were our classmates, all around us, faces shining, proud as peacocks, and there were our teachers and folks beyond the footlights. My heart tugged a little at the thought of leaving them all so soon. Would we see them again? Walt was president of our class, by right of general admiration, although he always said it was my political maneuvering. He led the march for the diplomas and awkwardly turned the wrong way, leading the whole class off the stage at the wrong exit. I'm afraid Walt wasn't thinking of diplomas that night. He was thinking of Indians and rapids and mounted police. Walt came to stay at our house the night before we set out. We sat around the fireplace for a long time, talking excitedly until finally Father chased us up to bed, fearful that we would be too tired for our first day's travel. But I could not sleep much. Early light was beginning to show the things in my room, my typewriter, my old easy chair, and my books on the desk, when I opened my eyes on that day we started out.